And that was Earl King from the album called Hard River to Cross. That was a track called No City Like New Orleans. So let's talk about that. That was recorded in we've got George Porter on the phone here.
Yeah, right.
That was recorded in 1993. It says on.
Yeah, that seems like close to being right. Yeah.
You talked about Earl King earlier. Tell me about Earl King.
Well, I mean, for me, Earl King was my inspiration to being, just wanting to perform and just be better than I am, because he for me he was I was like when I sat around Earl, it was always like I was going to school. I was learning not necessarily music per se, but learning the business of music and when we were recording, I learned just about everything about just how to be a better player, I had a wonderful career playing with Earl, and then I got to record I think 3 albums with him with Blacktop Records, Hard River to Cross and Sexual Telepathy, and maybe it was just 2. I'm just thinking I thought it was 3, but it maybe just been 2.
So this was somebody that you grew up listening to, you said.
Oh yeah, Earl. Oh, I've been listening to Earl from day one.
That's great that you can play with somebody.
Earl King was like probably along with Fats Domino was probably one of New Orleans, on the crossover stations, back in the old white radio stations, they were playing Earl King and Fats Domino.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All year round, Fest would get played, during the Mardi Gras season or something like that. But Earl and Fats Domino was getting played all year round.
Right. Yeah, whereas Professor Longhair was a little bit more, this is an event and we'll play this for the event, like go to the Mardi Gras or Tipitinas or something like that. It was a little bit more of a topical thing. Yeah. Okay. Before that, we played Robert Palmer from his album called Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley. That was the title track, an Alan Toussaint composition. Now, how did you get it? This was his very first album, right? It was, yeah.
I think he had a record out before that.
Okay.
I don't know very much about him. When we met Robert the day we showed up at the studio.
Was that in New Orleans? And
that was in New Orleans.
And that was the whole band?
In the C. Saint Studios.
Okay.
And it was kind of like he came in and he didn't really he had these pieces of songs that he was playing on his acoustic guitar, and pretty much the band, kind of wrote and arranged our parts. We kind of was very instrumental in arranging this record for him, and he forgot to put our names on the record. I thought that was like really cheesy.
Yeah, that's not so good. That's not so good. But I know. From my reading that the band and on any given song, the band on that album is either the Meters or Little Feat, and that's
on that record. I believe the whole album, except for maybe two sides on side B, the last 2 tracks, may have been Little Feat.
Okay.
And I believe Lowell was in the studio with us on. He's probably because the slide work on Sneakin' Sally.
Right, I think that is Lowell George. Right, yeah. So there, because I hear an incredible Meters influence in Little Feat's stuff, especially after the second or third album of theirs. It seemed like they were huge fans. So that's.
Well, Lowell was a big fan of the Meters, and when we were doing the Rolling Stones tour. In '76 of Europe, Lowell kind of disappeared off the Little Feat tour, and his manager knew the Meters was in Europe, and he called us and he said, "Man, y'all guys seen Lowell?" and absolutely, Lowell was hanging out with Leo.
Wow.
So yeah, we got him back to his tour.
Got him back where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, because he came and came hanging out with us on the Rolling Stones tour.
Wow. So now, was that a high point or a low point for you, or in between? Not really. As far as opening for the Rolling Stones, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was it was a learning scale, for the most part, because we had, two things I think that we did what probably was wrong for us, in a sense of saying, is that we were overdressed, to say the least. We were like, we wore, really nice, knitted type of jumpsuits and headbands and all that, kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We were like way overdressed for the playing in front of Stones. And I don't think it was a mistake on our part that
it was who you were.
That's who we were.
Yeah.
And then of course we were also an R&B band, so so that was what the scene at the days of most of the R&B bands was wearing the tight knit tight knitted jumpsuits and
mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And high heel boots, high heel Spanish boots and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was just a part of the superwear. I think we'd have done much better wearing jeans. But the music that we were playing, I think we just we didn't select our song selection correctly. I think we could have selected music, the song selection, much better than we did. But the Stones were, we when we got to France, that was probably the hardest gig that we saw. And we went on stage and they were booing at us, and Keith and Jagger came out on stage, man, and Jagger spoke to these people, and told them, man, hey, bro, y'all got to cool down, man. These guys are the greatest band in the U.S. and y'all should listen to them, And we started playing Fire on the Bayou, and they and Keith and Jagger stayed out on stage with us for almost the whole song.
Wow.
And from that point on, it was like a slam dunk,
Wow.
We did well. The next 2 nights there was no we did, it was every performance from that point on, actually, to the rest of the tour, was killing.
All right. I don't think you're the only band that has had stuff thrown at him opening for the Rolling Stones. I seem to remember Prince having stuff thrown at him in the early 80s when they opened for the Rolling Stones as well. I seem to remember that story. But so maybe we'll just leave that one alone. But it's great that you were able to win over the crowd. But before the Robert Palmer, to get back to what we were talking about, we played Dr. John, Right Place, Wrong Time from the album In the Right Place. Now that was an Alan Toussaint production, and did he bring you guys in, or was that was Dr. John bring you guys in, or how did that work?
No, at that time we were still pretty much Alan's studio band.
Okay.
And who most of the artists that in fact, they're because of some of our previous successes, record labels were sending artists to Alan to record with us and the Meters,
Mm-hmm.
So all with us and him, and it was like Dr. John's people at that time was definitely sent him in to do Right Place, Wrong Time, and then the record was a smash. They sent him back again to do Desert Tivoli Bonnaroo, which was my favorite record out of the two.
All right.
Apparently, that would be a Dr. John's question answer.
We'll get with him sometime in the future about that one.
Yeah, because that was, it ended up not being one of Doc's favorite records, but
they named the festival after it.
Yeah, they named a festival that, and actually, this year we performed the Desert Tivoli Bonnaroo recording live.
The whole thing with Dr. John.
The whole thing from top to bottom, just like it is on the record.
Yeah,
it was killing.
We'll see if we can't get to that a little bit later. Sometimes when we talk, there's stuff that I have planned out and so on like that, but we'll make sure that we play that later in the show. There's several great songs off that, and I understand why you would think that would be better than Right Place, Wrong Time. I thought Right Place, Wrong Time had a couple of really standout tracks, but overall, from start to finish, Desert Tivoli Bonnaroo was probably in my humble opinion, the better album complete all the way through. So I can see how you would say that. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And before that, we played LaBelle, Lady Marmalade from the album Nightbirds. I assume this was another sending him down to C. Saint Recording Studios.
Yes,
situation to work with Alan
In
Toussaint.
fact, I mean, her record label actually came with her.
Oh, wow.
Her producer, I believe it was a French woman.
Okay. All right. So, do you have any memories of that particular session? I mean, that was a huge hit and continues to be played on the radio.
I remember kind of remember that it was a session that was, that kind of almost spelled out the ending of Alan's camaraderie with the Meters as a whole band, because of him and Zig starting to bump heads on I mean, it was 3 Capricorns in the studio, so so there was Alan, Zig, and myself, and me being the probably the least of the tension makers,
Mm-hmm.
so they kind of bumped heads more than Alan would have liked to, and Zig started the session. Then James Black came in as a second drummer, and then Herman Ernest ended up playing the remaining. And Lady Marmalade was recorded with 3 different. All 3 drummers recorded this track.
Really?
So for me, and it was a part that was played, and I always say that I always thought it was the track when it came out. It was Zigaboo's track, but Herman Ernest claimed it as his, and I'm in agreement that it is too close to tell.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of different musicians claiming that they played on different records and so on like that may or may not have happened when you recorded.
Oh yeah, they got drummers out there that claim they played on Meter records.
Right. Well, then there's Bernard Purdie who says he plays on the Beatles albums, which would have been impossible with the recording technology, but that's okay. That's all right. Bernard Purdie's bad, man. Bernard is one of those
yep. Same guy. He played on the Meter records.
Yep. Oh, he says that too?
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, that's unfortunate, but yeah. Well, let's segue into some more current stuff here, if we could, before we close out with you. I want to mention that the Meters are nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, for the 2013 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And apparently you can go to rockhall.com and you can vote for the Meters, which we put it up on our Facebook site, and we encourage you to vote for the Meters. And we've started this sort of Vote for the Meters campaign, which will continue right now. Tell me about your take on all this, as far as being nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and
well, it's a wonderful honor, to be acknowledged by that group of industry people that who actually get to vote. I believe this is the first time that
yes, it is,
that people, everyday people, are getting to vote. So which the fans are getting to vote, which I'm not sure how that tabulates. How many votes actually the voices of the people, actually the number of votes are actually used.
Right.
But I believe that I think they use the voice of the people to narrow down the field from the 13 to 5.
Right. Yeah. Well,
then the industry votes on the 5. I think that's the way that goes.
I know you can vote as many times as you want, which we encourage everybody to do.
Heard, right.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll put a link up on the Facebook site. We want everybody to vote for the Meters. If anybody belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's the Meters. And once again, I want to thank you so much. It's just such an honor to speak to you, sir. It's just such an honor after all the great recording and all the inspiration you provided for so many people and all the great music that still stands up after all these years, and you continue to do great music. It's just really great to talk to you. I wanted to ask what it is you're doing now. What are your plans for the next few months and so on like that? What's on your plate right now, George Porter Jr.?
Right now what's on the plate, I'm getting ready to go out and do a little run of dates with Tedusky Trucks Band. Mm-hmm. Just for I think it's like 5 out of 7, 5 gigs out of 7 working days, and giving O'Teal some time home.
Right.
because I think outside of myself, I think Oteil might be the hardest working bass player on the planet. I mean, he like me, he plays in 4 or 5 bands.
Right.
He's always gone. Of course, he has, he's a young man with a young wife, and so getting to go home, is an important thing for a young man.
Right.
And so I'm an old man with an older wife, and we celebrated 47 years this year. So
all right.
So sometimes she wants me to stay away.
Yeah. It's okay for you.
You home too long. It's time for you to go out of here.
Right. Seen just a little bit too much of you. Yeah.
But it's I'm having fun, and then and I actually have been. Yesterday I was up here in the studio, and today I'm up here in the studio, and I'm thinking that I may need to just get back up in here again and start working again. I love being up here. Just haven't been home enough to initiate working again.
Yeah. Now, are you still playing around the New Orleans area?
I still play around the city, but I'm not home enough
right.
to play much. I mean, the Voodoo is coming up. I'm going to do Voodoo with 2 bands, Running Partners, and the Trio, which is going to play on the same day, Friday. And then Friday night, the Funky Meters will play up at Tipitina's uptown.
All right.
So it could be a 3-day hit for me.
Now, who's in the Funky Meters now?
Hit that day, and then on Monday I fly to New York, and start a run of dates with 2 of the other Meters, Leo Nocentelli and Zigaboo. And we having Paige McConnell joining us, and that band is going to be called the Meter Men.
That's Paige McConnell from Fish, right? Yes.
Yes, that's the keyboardist from Fish,
right.
Correct. And we're going to do 4 dates up on the Northeast up there, and then the rest of the year, the end of the year, catching up. There's some stuff, but you can always find out what I'm doing on my Facebook page. It keeps up pretty, keeps the it keeps itself up. Well, actually, my web administrator, Miss Atmore, really takes care of that for me and does a great job of keeping me in tune to where I'm at.
Right, so you know where you're going next.
I know where I'm going between my wife and I know where I'm at.
All right. Well, let's play one more song from your latest album called Can't Beat the Funk. We'll play I Need More Time. Anything you want to tell us about this tune?
It says what it is.
You need more time.
We need more time.
Right. Well, thank you very much once again, George Porter Jr., for talking to us here on the Burnt Toast Show. It's been a real honor talking to you, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for calling, Todd.
You bet.